Hi! Today we will be color grading raw footage, but before we can get to that, we need to talk about something. This is Canon 1DX Mark II. The footage that comes out of it is in Rec. 709 color space. When you import that footage into Davinci Resolve, it falls nicely into the same Rec. 709 color space. But when you use a camera that is RAW capable, like this Blackmagic that I'm using right now for example, you end up with a color space that is much bigger than the standard Rec. 709. So when you import that footage, you squeeze all the information into a smaller color space. It is totally fine for export, because most screens can display colors only within that Rec. 709 color space. But the problem is that this smaller color space puts limits on how much we can push and pull in edit before the image breaks. Thankfully, Davinci has a color space built in that is much bigger than any camera can give us. When we use it, we are no longer constricted by the small color space. Now let's jump into Davinci Resolve and I'll show you how to use it. A quick disclaimer before we do that. I am not a professional colorist, so the information may not be as accurate as you want it to be. Now let's jump into Davinci Resolve and continue there. We're going to open Davinci Resolve, and here is raw footage from our Alexa. The standard procedure of turning this raw or log footage into Rec. 709 implies usage of color space transform, where we need to find our camera and the codec used. But today we're not going to do that. Instead we will proceed to Settings, Color Management. I will change color signs to Davinci Color Managed and preset to Davinci White Gamut. Now, pay close attention to our footage. As soon as I click Save, the footage gets automatically transformed to Rec. 709. Because the camera does not apply any noise reduction to raw footage, we need to do it ourselves. That's why the first note is going to be dedicated to that. Unfortunately, noise reduction is available only in the studio version of Davinci. So we are going to open Noise Reduction tab, choose 3 frames and move threshold to about 10. Then break the chain here and move chroma to about 7 or 8. To save some time, we are going to use a LUT, which is supposed to be located at the end in order to preserve all the data for flexibility before applying the LUT. Let's choose this LUT and apply it. Now let's make a note and call it primaries. We're going to adjust lift, gamma, gain and contrast to our liking. The next node will be called correction, and it is going to be used for correcting the skin tones. But before that we need to qualify the skin to do that. Had we not applied noise reduction before, this step would have been a nightmare. Now we are going to push color into midtones until we are satisfied with the color of her skin. In the next node we'll create a power window around her in case we are going to need some adjustments, and immediately create an outside node by pressing Alt+O on a keyboard. In the outside node we are going to increase contrast. The next node is for my favorite effect here, for glow. As usual, change the composite type to soft light and play until it looks good. And the last node, that comes even after the LUT, is film grain. That's it. As usual, this is not the perfect color grade, if those even exist. This is just my vision, but I hope that overall structure for color grading raw shots is going to be helpful. Thank you for watching. Bye.